Imagine you are the emperor of a mighty empire. You have everything a person could ever desire. Absolute power, the fear of your enemies, and countless people bowing at your feet. Yet deep inside your heart, there is not a single soul who truly loves you. Only a cold, lonely feeling lingers, a void that power can never fill. Meanwhile, a eunuch, steps into your life and everything changes. He is not merely a tool, not just a companion in your dreams of power. He is a flame. And in the strange connection between you and him, all boundaries are erased and your world is no longer yours. Sporus, he will be the one who forces you to face yourself, to choose between true love and the power you've spent your life building. And the story begins here. Nero stood alone in his chamber, the faint glow of the oil lamp casting shadows across his weary face. Though he was the emperor of the Roman Empire, holding power over the world, his heart felt heavy. A life full of wealth and influence. But could it be called happiness? The smiles of the courtiers, the fearful glances of the soldiers, everything was an exterior, and within him was a man alone, burdened by political obligations, by marriages built for strategic reasons. His wife, Octavia, was not the woman he had hoped for. Their relationship was nothing more than a political alliance. Octavia was beautiful, yes, but she never made him feel alive. She was a pawn in the game of power, a figure who never truly connected with him. He had once hoped that love would emerge from an official union, but now all he saw was an empty shell. Then one day, a young eunuch entered the palace. Sporus, a man of stunning beauty, like a living work of art. From the very first meeting, Nero felt an invisible pull, a connection he had never experienced before. It was not about power, not about politics. It was love, a passion yet to be discovered. Sporus was unlike anyone else. He did not belong to the world of warriors or politicians. He was just a eunuch, a servant. But it was in this simplicity that Sporus brought a freshness that Nero had never known. He was not elaborate, not pretentious, and most importantly, Sporus looked at Nero with a different gaze, one that held admiration, that held love. This was not a normal relationship. It was a yearning Nero could not resist. Day by day, Nero found ways to draw closer to Sporus. Not because of power or control. What he longed for was not just a handsome eunuch by his side, but a man who truly understood him, who made him feel human, not a puppet of history. In the long hours of the night, Nero shared his deepest thoughts with Sporus, thoughts he had never dared to reveal to anyone, not even his wife. The relationship between them began to grow, and Nero realized that this was what he had been searching for all along, a true love, a bond not tied to political gain. But as the emperor, such a relationship was perilous. This connection could unravel everything. It could tear apart the very empire he had built. Nero felt the conflict growing inside him. He had to choose between Sporus, the man he loved, and Octavia, his official wife, who was the safeguard for his power. But could he live only for power? And could love truly exist in a world so full of calculation? Long nights passed, and Nero no longer knew what was right or wrong. Could Sporus's love be strong enough to withstand the pressure from the court and society? And could Nero summon the courage to live a life without absolute power? To choose love, knowing that such a decision could lead to his downfall. In the darkness of Rome, where power and ambition often suffocate the human soul, there exists a forbidden love. It is a love born not of convenience, but of passion, of desire, and the desperate need for something more than mere control. Nero, the emperor, who had ruled over empires with iron fists, now found himself imprisoned by the very thing he once sought to command, his own heart. The days after their first encounter were a blur to Nero. He had always been a man of power, a man who demanded respect and obedience from everyone who crossed his path. Yet when Sporus entered his life, something changed. The walls he had built around his heart, carefully constructed over the years of war and betrayal, began to crumble. Each glance, each touch from Sporus pierced deeper than any sword ever could. Their relationship, initially a secret, quickly became an obsession. Nero would summon Sporus to his private chambers under the cover of night, away from the eyes of his court and his wife, Octavia. These clandestine meetings were filled with an intensity Nero had never known. Sporus, despite his position as a eunuch, held a silent power over Nero, a power that made the emperor feel vulnerable in a way he had never experienced before. His usual arrogance faded in Sporus' presence, replaced by a deep longing. As the days turned into weeks, Nero began to find solace in Sporus' eyes, a place where no pretense or facade could survive. He began to realize that what he felt for Sporus was more than just a fleeting attraction. It was real, it was raw, and it was terrifying. Fear, like power, can corrupt. Nero's inner conflict intensified. Should he continue hiding this forbidden love, locked away in the shadows of his empire? Or should he embrace it, regardless of the consequences? But more importantly, could he ever truly be the ruler he once was while divided by a love so dangerous? One evening, after a particularly passionate meeting, Nero stood in front of a mirror, his gaze fixed on his own reflection. For the first time, he didn't see the mighty emperor of Rome. Instead, he saw a man, vulnerable, lost, and consumed by something that could either destroy him or set him free. "What is power?" Nero whispered to himself, "if I cannot control my own heart?" His thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. It was Octavia. With a cold yet graceful smile, she entered, her presence as regal as ever. Nero couldn't help but feel a pang of guilt. She was the woman he had married, the woman he had promised to protect and honor. But how could he continue this charade? How could he keep pretending that everything was fine when the only thing that truly mattered was the young eunuch Sporus? The tension in the room thickened. Octavia's gaze lingered on Nero, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. She had always been observant, and she could see the subtle shift in Nero's demeanor. He was different now. His thoughts were no longer focused solely on his empire, but on something or someone else. "You've been distant, Nero," she said softly. "What is it that occupies your mind?" Nero's response was a mere whisper, almost inaudible. "You wouldn't understand." Octavia's lips pressed together in a thin line, her expression one of restrained frustration. "I understand more than you think," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. "But whatever it is, it will be the end of you, Nero." In that moment, Nero realized the truth. His love for Sporus had become a threat, not only to his reign, but to everything he had ever built. And yet he couldn't stop. Every moment with Sporus filled a void inside him, a void that had been empty for far too long. As the days passed, Nero and Sporus' secret grew harder to keep. The whispers of the court became louder, and the eyes of Rome turned with suspicion. Nero's heart was torn. He wanted to protect Sporus, but the price of doing so might be too great. Would the love between them be his salvation or his undoing? In the shadows of Rome, Nero thought, no one is truly free, not even an emperor. The dilemma of love and power. Nero was now at a crossroads. He could continue the charade, live the life of a ruler, pretending that all was well, while his heart ached for Sporus. Or he could throw caution to the wind, defy the traditions of Rome, and embrace this love, no matter the cost. But as every ruler knows, love and power are not easily reconciled. Nero had once believed that he could conquer everything, but in the end, he had learned that some battles were fought within, and that was the true test of